She came back as a billionaire CEO, herself to face her ex-husband. "You left without a word, after everything. How do you expect me to believe you're back for anything but your own gain?" Elena's voice was steady, but the fire beneath it could ignite a storm. Thomas stared at her across the sleek glass table, the shadows of years stretching between them, threatening to drown them both. Yet, despite the cold silence filling the room, a single question burned hotter than regrets. Could the past ever truly be undone? She had returned to this city not as the frightened woman who once fled, but as a force reshaped by loss, ambition, and secrets that could topple empires. What would you do if the one who broke your heart held the key to your future? Would you open the door? Or let it stay locked forever? The city lights flickered beyond the window, their distant hum, a fragile echo of promises made and broken. Elena inhaled, the air thick with possibility and peril, knowing this was just the beginning of a reckoning none of them could escape. It had been 15 years of silence, a chasm filled with what-ifs and could-have-beens. Thomas, once a titan of industry, had lived in the shadow of his own choices, his fortune a pale reflection of what he'd lost. Tonight, in the quiet hum of the penthouse that overlooked the skyline, their fractured story was poised to ignite. Elena's footsteps were deliberate as she approached, her heels clicking like the heartbeat of a clock winding down. Her empire wasn't just built on technology, it was forged from the ashes of a life she'd bravely rebuilt. But beneath the veneer of power lay a secret, a life-altering truth she could no longer keep hidden. Their first encounter was electric, charged with all the weight of the years apart and the promises never kept. Thomas's eyes, once so full of certainty, now wavered as they met hers, searching for answers, for forgiveness, for something to hold on to. And Elena, behind her steely gaze, wrestled with a storm of emotions that threatened to spill over. Power and vulnerability danced in a delicate duet between them. She held the ascent of a vast empire in her hands, yet her heart was a fragile thing, trembling beneath the facade. His presence was a ghost that haunted every boardroom victory, every quiet moment of solitude. Amidst the grand gala of the city's elite, whispers traced Elena's name like a wildfire. The woman who came back stronger, the CEO who defied the past. But amidst the applause, she felt the weight of unseen eyes and unspoken questions. Was their shared history just a ghost story waiting to be untold? Or was it a foundation that could be rebuilt? In the quiet moments, Elena found herself drawn back to a box, long kept locked, filled with letters she'd never sent, and memories that twisted like barbed wire. There, hidden within faded ink and fragile pages, lay the revelation that could either heal or destroy everything. Thomas's sacrifices, made unwittingly, shaping the trajectory of both their lives. The secret whispered louder than ever in the dead of night, demanding reckoning. Could love survive the truths kept in silence? Could years of solitude be bridged by the fragile threads of forgiveness? Their confrontation was inevitable, words spilling out like a torrent, raw and unfiltered. Thomas faced not just Elena, but the children that bore his blood, and dreams shattered by absence. The carefully constructed facades crumbled in the rising dawn, revealing the tender, flawed humanity beneath. Choices made in fear and desperation clashed with hopes for redemption, dragging them across the fragile boundary between past and future. Blood ties and buried emotions intertwined, weaving a tapestry dense with longing, regret, and the faintest hint of hope. As sunlight spilled over the city skyline, a tentative peace emerged, a fragile truce formed not from forgetting, but from the courage to face what had been broken. For Elena, this was transformation. From yearning to acceptance, from isolation to the tentative promise of connection. For Thomas, it was a chance to grasp once more the family he thought lost, the forgiveness he'd once feared denying. Beneath the surface of this reconciliation, the ticking clock demanded a final, impossible choice between the empire they'd built and the family they might reclaim. The ties that bound them were a double-edged sword, cutting deep yet offering salvation in equal measure. Their story was no longer just theirs, it was a mirror reflecting universal truths, the scars left by absence, the resilience born of love, and the fierce power of secrets finally told. The city held its breath as Elena and Thomas stepped toward an uncertain tomorrow, their journey a testament to the fragile beauty of human connection, the echoes of love, the force of power, intertwined forevermore. This is part 1 of the recording-ready script for She Came Back as a Billionaire CEO herself to face her ex-husband. Crafted with seamless psychological retention weapons embedded across every moment, designed to grip listeners from the first breath and never let go. It balances cinematic storytelling with intimate, natural narration, untangling each emotional thread with precision, cultivating urgency, and delivering dopamine hits through continuous question loops and escalating stakes. The narrative voice speaks directly, as if confiding a deeply personal story, while maintaining vivid, immersive imagery and varied rhythm. Dialogues ignite tension, internal monologues reveal hidden depths, and every sentence fights for attention with clear purpose. Elena's voice cut through the tense air like a blade. Across the glass table, Thomas's eyes lingered on hers, heavy with the weight of years gone by and the unspoken words between them. His jaw tightened, but no answer came. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Yet underneath it all hovered a single question, burning brighter than regret. Could they rewrite a past marred by betrayal and loss? This was not the vulnerable woman who once fled poverty and heartbreak. This was Elena, a titan forged by pain, whose empire shimmered like a beacon in the unforgiving night. Yet beneath the glitz and power lay a secret, buried deep, that threatened to undo everything she'd built. What if the key to redemption rested in a choice so impossible it could either heal or destroy their fractured lives? The city hummed outside her penthouse window, the lights flickering like distant promises. 15 years of silence, absence, and unanswered questions had come to this moment. She came back to me, but not the same woman, Thomas would later say, voice thick with regret. But standing here now, watching her steal, her gaze towards him, it was time to face the truth. Neither could escape. Years ago, the love that had tethered them unraveled, torn by ambition, fear, and sacrifices too great to name. Tonight, as Elena prepared to face the man who once held her heart and shattered it, the air was charged with an electric urgency, the kind that makes you question what you've lost, and what you might still dare to hope for. Every step she took echoed with the weight of impossible choices and dangerous secrets. Would she open the door to the past, or let it close forever? And what price would they pay if the truth finally came to light? In that quiet moment before the storm, Elena promised herself, this time, she would not run. Elena's return to the city's high society was nothing short of a declaration, a phoenix risen from ashes, dazzling and unyielding. The gala to unveil her latest tech venture was awash with glittering faces and whispered gossip. The woman who had vanished, now wielding power few could match. Yet beneath every smile was the question they all dared only to wonder aloud. Why now? Why return? Thomas caught her gaze amidst the buzz and clinking glasses, a storm of conflicting emotions flashing through his eyes. The past was a silent partner in every glance. The love they shared, the pain they inflicted, the family torn apart. Their first words exchanged were brittle, edges sharp with old wounds. Yet every syllable was laced with the unspoken. Secrets that refused to stay buried, promises broken and begged for by silent pleas. Behind the facade of the boardroom brilliance and public triumph, their history rippled beneath, ready to surface. The uneasy dance of power and vulnerability had resumed, more dangerous than ever, fueled by questions without answers and the relentless ticking of fate. Elena's success was carved from relentless drive and iron will, but even the tallest skyscrapers could cast the longest shadows. Her heart, intact yet fragile, beat against the cage of control. She'd built her empire, an illusion without the family she lost. Secrets she kept in a locked box of memories and letters haunted the quiet nights. Whispers threading through the silence like a siren's call. Among them was the revelation that could change everything. The truth about sacrifices made, love withheld, and futures stolen. Could Thomas, the man who walked away, ever grasp what she'd endured? Could Elena forgive the absence that shaped her journey? The answers hovered on the edge of fracture and reconciliation, waiting to be spoken in the fragile dawn. When the confrontation finally broke, it was raw and unyielding. Words spilled in torrents, the weight of years compressed into aching moments. They stood not just as estranged lovers, but as parents, shaped by the years and the children born into silence. The facades slipped away as vulnerability cracked the hardest armor, and what emerged was painfully human, flawed, hopeful, desperate. Their choices from the past collided with the hopes of what could still be, tangled in a tapestry, frayed but not undone. With the rising sun as witness, a fragile peace settled a truce born of courage and the will to face uncertain tomorrows. For Elena, it was an emergence from yearning into acceptance. For Thomas, a trembling chance to reclaim lost roles and fractured bonds. Yet beneath this delicate hope, time's relentless march demanded one final, impossible choice between the legacy of power and the call of blood and love. Their story, now every bit theirs and yet universal, reflected the raw truths we all carry, the scars of absence, the depth of resilience, and the power secrets hold when finally told. The city exhaled as Elena and Thomas stepped toward that uncertain horizon, a journey of echoes, power, and love intertwined. Elena's eyes scanned the skyline, her mind racing with the weight of what she was about to do. Every breath felt like walking a tightrope suspended above years of heartbreak, silence, and secrets buried deep in her heart. Could she truly face him after all this time? After all the pain and betrayal, was there still enough of the woman he once loved, or had she forged a new identity in the shadows of her past? These questions spun relentlessly, each one a blade cutting closer to her core. She had built this life, an empire of steel and glass, her name etched in the annals of tech innovation. But beneath the surface, a quiet storm brewed, one that threatened to shatter the fragile veneer she had meticulously crafted. The secret she carried was no longer a hidden whisper. It roared within her, demanding release. Why was it so hard to believe that love could survive all her victories? Or was she afraid that it couldn't? At the gala, a sea of faces blurred into one. Yet, her focus was fixed on that singular figure, Thomas, who stood amidst a crowd that seemed too distant now, yet impossibly close. Every glance fed the fire in her chest, a mix of longing, anger, and defiance. Their history was a wound she refused to ignore. Their love was a story incomplete, a puzzle missing too many pieces. Is it really him? She wondered, the question echoing inside her like a mantra. Could she trust her heart to beat again, amid the ruins of what once was? Could she forgive the silence that had stretched across years? The stakes had never been higher, and her mind knew it. The moment she crossed that invisible line, everything would change, perhaps forever. She approached him without a word, each step an act of rebellion against time's relentless march. Her voice was soft but piercing. "You said you never loved me, but I remember the nights we shared, the promises, the dreams, the love we thought would last eternity." Her words hung in the air, each one a flickering flame, threatening to ignite her own destruction, or her redemption. Thomas looked at her, a man haunted by the ghosts of his own choices. The years had carved lines into his face, yet his eyes still held that familiar spark, the one that drew her like a magnet. For a split second, everything they thought they knew collapsed into dust, replaced by raw vulnerability and unspoken longing. The secret she clutched close in her chest had the power to rewrite everything. It was the bridge or the chasm, her salvation or her undoing. Could he accept the woman beneath the layers of success? Or would her truth shatter the fragile hope that flared between them? Every word was a gamble. Every pause, a risk of losing what might still be saved. Her voice trembled. "I've spent 15 years building a fortress I thought could protect me. But now I see it was just a prison. I've loved you, hated you, and finally I'm ready to face whatever comes next, together or apart." In this moment, time slowed, the world narrowing to the space between two hearts, battered and bruised, but still beating. The past lurked at the edges of their consciousness, whispering of what could have been. And yet, in the quiet, a new possibility emerged, a fragile thread of hope that refused to be broken. Would they walk away or walk forward? The answer was written in their gaze, silent yet deafening with its certainty or its despair. Elena's hand trembled as she reached for the truth she'd hidden for so long, her fate now intertwined with his, and the weight of everything they'd lost and could still gain pressed down on her in an unrelenting crescendo. This was more than a tale of power and love. It was a mirror to everyone who ever dared to hope, to risk, to love again despite the scars. Through her journey, they all saw a reflection of their own fight, an unyielding echo of the human spirit refusing to be defeated.